Welcome back. Dear students, let us begin the second part of the lesson in which we will discuss about detailed description on parametric hypothesis. Purpose or the role of the parametric testing lies with it analyzes and mathematically validates the relationship between two or more variables and clearly shows the magnitude of impact that one or more factors have the target. Further, it helps in the statistical validation of assumption and helps in deciding which factor, that means x, has the maximum impact on target y. A hypothesis test formally tests if a population parameter is different to hypothesized value. The null hypothesis states that the parameter is equal to the hypothesized value against the alternative hypothesis that it is not equal to the hypothesized value. Coming to the importance of parametric testing of hypothesis, the main advantage of it is that they are more powerful and precise. They have a higher chance of detecting an actual effect or differences if it exists. They also allow to make generalization and predictions about the population based on the sample data. Coming to the context where we are going to make use of these parametric tests are, one is quantitative data, another is continuous variable, third one is when data is measured on an approximate interval, either interval scale or ratio scale, when the data source follows the normal distribution. Under these four constructs, we have to discuss about the usage of parametric tests. Steps in testing of hypothesis, there are 5 broad steps in testing. First step is state the objective of the test, sample nature and sampling distribution of the parent population. Second step is state the research hypothesis in terms of null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Third step is state the test statistic and its sampling distribution and compute the test statistics based on the observed and experimental data. And fourth step is obtain the test critical value or p value by considering issues like level of significance, type of the test, confidence interval and power of the test, and decide the decision on retaining or rejecting the null hypothesis and making the interpretation is the final step in any testing procedure. Test objectives and sampling distribution involves the basic requirement of the research objective to decide the type of test that considered for testing purpose. To test the significance of intervention on the cure or the ailment can be considered as one of the examples to pursue it. Another example for testing the objective is that to test the significance of gender and mother tongue impact on elementary education. Null and alternative hypotheses are the main hypotheses that makes the decision making based on parametric hypothesis. After developing your initial research of hypothesis, predictions that you want to investigate, it important to restate it as null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis so that you can test it mathematically. The null hypothesis is a prediction of no relationship between the variables. The alternative hypothesis is usually initial hypothesis that predicts have a relationship between variables. So, null and alternative hypothesis tests. Let us consider an example. To test whether there is a relationship between gender and height based on the knowledge of human physiology. The formulated hypothesis is that men are on average taller than women. So, under this context, mostly the null hypothesis, to test the hypothesis we say null hypothesis as men are on average not taller than women, because this hypothesis speaks about no difference like, and alternative hypothesis really reflects the research hypothesis that men are on average taller than women. So, test statistic and its sampling distribution, if you consider, there are 4 types of sampling distributions we are going to handle. If the test is for one sample test for mean and sample size is large, then the test statistics is Z and it follows sampling distribution named as standard normal distribution. However, if the test statistics for sample test for means and sample size is small, then the test statistic is T and it follows a sampling distribution named as students T distribution. The test statistics and other distributions are to test the verification of significance between two population variances and the sample size is small, then test statistics is F and it follows sampling distribution by the name Snedeker's F distribution. Coming to the qualities or attributes verification, if the test is the verification on significance of the association between attributes, then the test statistic is chi-square and it follows sampling distribution by name chi-square distribution. These are the 4 distributions we are handling under category of sampling distributions. An important phenomenon or notion is called p-value. It is a statistical measure used to validate a hypothesis against observed data. It is a measure the probability of obtaining the observed results assuming the null hypothesis is true. It is lower the p-value which indicates greater will be the statistical significance of the observed inference. A p-value of 0.05 or lower is generally considered as statistically significant. P-value can serve as an alternative to addition to pre-selected confidence levels of the testing of hypothesis. Interpreting the null hypothesis with p-value, if the p-value is less than the significance level, you reject the null hypothesis. If p-value is not less than the significance level, you fall to reject the null hypothesis. The following line can be used to remember this rule. If p-value is low, the null must be go. Dear student, let us summarize the second part of this lesson on statistical inference and parametric testing. In this, we discussed about the importance of parameters for testing the hypothesis. Further, we covered what are the different contexts we are facing for parametric testing and the steps in testing of hypothesis. However, there is an important concept called p-value and critical values that are also given correct impressions that are very important for testing of hypothesis. Students, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Let us meet the next part of the lesson. Thank you.